Welcome to Womb Talk. I'm your host, Elizabeth Vanderwall, a holistic doula and a women's health coach, the founder of Fruitful Doula Services. This space is for every woman who is walking the path of deeper healing. Whether you're tending to your fertility, maybe you're carrying life, or you're going through the wisdom of menopause. Here we honor the full spectrum of womanhood through story, nourishment, and sacred conversation. So let's settle in, take a deep breath, and begin. Today we have the incredible Rachel Pogue, and she created BFF Active. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. So tell us a bit about yourself and just what you do and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. So I am, first and foremost, I am a mom. I'm a mom of five. I have one older daughter and I have four littles at home, ages 7, 4, almost 5, 3, and 7.5 months. So my oldest is in her 20s and I'm not living at home, so she's off doing her own thing. But I'm also, I guess I would consider myself an entrepreneur at this point. I'm also a doctor of physical therapy. So I've done a lot of things to get to this point of launching my activewear clothing brand for breastfeeding moms. BFF Active, which is breastfeeding friendly, or BFF, like your best friend forever. It's kind of a little play on words there. Um, but yeah, I started off in the clinical world as a PT, and then I went into, um, you know, trying to, and I did successfully for a short period of time, running my own business, doing online physical therapy work and online coaching, with my focus on, pregnancy and postpartum moms, just getting moms back to running. Actually, I designed a pregnant return to run postpartum program, which I'm actually going to be bringing back in a few weeks. But I kind of wanted to get away from uh, doing the one-on-ones because it was tricky with going through pregnancy and nursing little ones and just having kids at home. So I wanted to get away from the one-on-one coaching, get away from being online quite so much. So that's why I decided to go this route of creating physical products, right? So initially I was like, I don't want to do a physical product because I don't want to have to worry about merchandise. But now I'm like, I don't want to be so front and center all the time. So I want to have a physical product. So it's interesting sort of how that evolved. But yeah, I've been really interested in working with moms in pregnancy and postpartum for a while, since my 7-year-old was born, just because of my own difficulties that I had actually in pregnancy and in the postpartum period. So it's kind of been a place that's been near and dear to my heart, both personally and professionally.
Wonderful. And so what exactly inspired you to get I'm going to leave physical therapy and go to activewear designer? That's a very big change. So I guess I'm just curious
Yeah.
is what made that switch besides
Yeah.
the
So it's
leaving
been
online?
like a kind of slow, steady progression over the last 7 or 8 years. So it wasn't just like I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna like create activewear. So when my 7-year-old was born, I very strongly did not want to have to go back to work. I was just like in that little like postpartum cocoon, and I just wanted to stay home, and I didn't want to put him in daycare. So I was just like, what can I do that will provide some income for our family, but allow me to stay home, with my family? Well, I started a blog online thinking that that was going to like bring in some income, which of course it didn't. And then I got into the coaching space. And so this was like a couple years later. I think it was after I had my now 4-year-old. So I had the two kids in daycare, and then I became pregnant with my daughter, who's now 3. And at that point, it was like, oh my gosh, we have two kids in daycare. They're not ready. My oldest isn't ready for school yet. Or actually, I think he would have just been going into kindergarten that fall. But like two kids in daycare, one at school, or one with aftercare or whatever. And it was just like, you know what? My husband was on board with just like making the leap of staying home with the kids. And at first, it was like, okay, we'll do 1 year, like 1 year, stay at home, and then go back to work. So up to that point, I was working, full time ish. I wasn't always 40 hours, but somewhere in like the 30 to 40 hour range over the years, doing clinical work. And then it kind of went down to, actually, was it, I think it was after I had Emma, who's 3. And then I went back to just doing like per diem. Then I was doing per diem, and then I was just doing weekends. Um, so it's been sort of a progression of sort of like leading that. I still do online physical therapy work. I actually work for another company online. So I do that part time from home as I'm trying to build up my activewear brand because I just launched in September. So it's only been a few weeks since I launched. Yeah, so it's like brand new. But yeah, so it's kind of been that progression of just like, what am I'm doing physical therapy. I had trouble with my own postpartum. I went back and did continuing ed for um, postpartum care, and I became a corrective exercise specialist. Um, Not only to heal myself, but then also to work with other moms in the same situation. So I kind of gradually left PT in the clinical sense. I'm still, using my skills in a work from home capacity. But yeah, and then doing the coaching was still physical therapy related. So I did PT as well as one-on-one coaching. And then I made that decision where I was like, and I I started the whole process for BFF Active. Let me think. I think it was May of 2024, so it's been like what, a year and a half or so. So I kind of like wasn't taking on more clients for my one-on-ones and kind of like closed the doors on that before I started up this new venture. So that's kind of been the progression. So it wasn't just like a hard stop. Like a lot of people are like, well, how'd you go from PT to like activewear? And there's definitely like a cross link there, right? Like activewear being active for moms, and like, my whole thing is like wanting moms to be active, get back to activity and feeling comfortable and confident, postpartum, both physically, but also like how they feel in their skin and like what they're wearing. So it's kind of like all related.
That's just a really incredible journey. I love it. And also congratulations for just launching. I thought this has been around
Thank
for a while,
you.
but I see all the things, so I'm confused on like how many times I see things. I'm like, oh, it's been around forever. So my brain is like my head's over that. So I guess I'm just curious, what makes BFF Active different from different activewear
Yeah.
brands that there are out
Yeah,
there?
that's a really good question. So I personally have been a runner for a long time, so probably close to 20 years. I also did triathlon for a long time. I've been an avid hiker. And so like since we had our children, like they come along on the adventures. Like I have a single running stroller, I have a double running stroller. We take them hiking. I wear the kids in the pack and we climb mountains together. And so, like all these years, as I enter from pregnancy into the postpartum phase, it's always like, I wish I had, right? I wish I had this article of clothing that would serve my needs the way that I want to serve me. And so, I have, athletic wear, which is just like your plain, like your regular, like quote unquote technical tees, like things, moisture wicking t-shirts, right? Like your workout gear that you would think of. Then there's also like the breastfeeding shirts, right? Breastfeeding shirts that are out there, but they're all like cotton. They're all like shirts that you would just wear, in your day to day type thing. And so I wanted to mash the two together, right? So why can't we have the best of both worlds? Let's have an activewear tee that has breastfeeding access. That's going to also be moisture wicking for moms who want to be active, who want to like be out, like we go on hikes with the kids, and my older kids are hiking, so we're like out for, 5 or 6 hours sometimes, right? And like I want to have something that I feel comfortable in. Other breastfeeding activewear that I've tried says that it's moisture wicking, but by the time I'm actually sweating in it, it doesn't feel great. It feels terrible. It's like that clingy feeling that you get with like a cotton material or even material that says that it's like bamboo and moisture wicking. It's not. And I need to be able to nurse my baby whenever they want to nurse. And so that could be on the trail side, that could be at the top of the mountain, that could be on the turnaround from a run, right? So I wanted to have something that I could wear in that postpartum phase, but I also wanted to have certain attributes, right? No zippers, because I personally feel like zippers are when you have a hungry crying baby, can't manage it with one hand. So no zippers, moisture wicking material, nice and soft. Also something that you feel like you could wear, like you could go easily from like I went for a run and now I have to stop at the store or something, or I went for a hike and now the kids want to get ice cream afterwards. So I feel like I'm still put together, and that moisture wicking property is like in, so I don't like look like I just went for a run or I just went for a hike. So it can easily transition. So it can be for like those heavier, exercise activities, but it's also just for like everyday mom life because as you and I probably both know, like postpartum like sweating is a real thing, right? Like even just like doing the laundry or like baby wearing, like you could be sweating just from doing that. And I was just talking about like doing a quote unquote workout, right? So just having something for, even that early postpartum phase before you're doing sort of that like, that bigger stuff. So that's kind of been the motivation and also why this is much different than what's already out there on the market.
That's awesome. I love how it also came from a necessity for yourself. Um, I'm not an active person. So for me, it's like, oh, not as needed. But I love seeing that for those that are in that space that really would like that. So I give big congratulations to you. It's not every day that someone's like, I found an idea. Let's go do
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work to come up with something that the people definitely need. So I guess I am also just curious on like what kind of challenges have you faced, seeing as you have 5 kids and
Yeah.
you're also an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you can imagine, like time is not as plentiful as it normally once was. I mean, this is the new normal. So, yeah, so it took me a bit longer to launch than it would, have been if I had all the time in the world, right? So it took me, over a year from product conception to samples to actual launching. Um, so, it took me a while. Would I like to work on my business for more time, on certain days? Sure. But I think that's the biggest challenge is time. And I think you would hear that from any mom. There's like not enough time in the day, right? Like, how do you prioritize your time? Like the baby doesn't want to take a nap. So like there goes my time for working on my business. Or like, okay, well, the only time I have to do it is late at night, and so I need to sacrifice some sleep so that I can get some stuff done. So I would say that's the biggest challenge. But I also find, and I feel like I've been this way a long time, that the more stuff I have to do, the more efficient I am at getting it done. Like there's less procrastination happening, right? So like even when I was in grad school with my oldest, like she was, toddler age and I was in grad school, like I still made it to grad school. Like you just have that like mindset of like this is what I need to do to get it done in the time that you have and you just make do with that. So I was a little bit disappointed to be honest that it took me as long as it did, but I was when I was pregnant with my last baby, I was like, I'm gonna launch before the baby's born and it's gonna like I'm not going to have to do as much like in the early postpartum phase and that sort of thing. But that didn't happen, and so this project has sort of been like on its own timeline, just like babies are on their own timeline. Right? They just come when they're ready, and they're hungry when they're hungry, and they sleep when they do, and they don't when they don't. So it's kind of been sort of like like a metaphor for motherhood almost. It's just sort of like going with the flow, being flexible, being patient with the process, and just taking it one step at a time.
That honestly is the best metaphor I've heard because a lot of the times businesses when you start them they are your baby, another form of
Right.
baby. So you're right. It does like it just sleeps when it sleeps and it eats when it eats. I love that. That is like the best metaphor I've ever heard. I love it. So I guess I want to know what your hopes are with BFF Active. How is it going to
Yeah.
change the way that postpartum women feel about movement, about their bodies? I love to hear your hope behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my whole thing is that motherhood is movement. And so whether that movement is, like I said, whether it's like doing laundry, chasing your toddler, playing soccer with your school age child in the backyard, um, whatever it is. I know you said earlier, you said, well, I'm not an active person. Well, I'm sure there's some stuff that you do in your life that's active that's not like heavy sweating workout type stuff, right? I mean, you're still like we still live our lives and we're still active. So So, I mean, this was born out of sort of my idea for wanting something that was more like sweat ready and moisture wicking. But I have a lot of moms who have purchased already in their one packed it in their hospital bag because she's like, I know that I'm going to be like, postpartum sweating and need this right after I deliver. But yeah, my hope is to kind of like reach all moms who are active in their own way and like redefining what it means after you have a baby. It's not like that whole idea of like bouncing back where there's like this pressure to bounce back. Like I don't really subscribe to that. I feel like it's just like a rediscovery of yourself as a mother, either for the first time or again, and re-finding yourself and finding that confidence in yourself, feeling good in your skin, right? Like with whatever you're doing, whether it's related to your kids, it's your own, individual passions. Um, because I think there's a lot of pressure to like bounce back, and I wanted to create something that moms feel really good and comfortable in because honestly, like so much of the clothing like after you have a child is like your maternity clothes don't really fit right and they just make you still look like you're pregnant even though you do still look like you're pregnant but you don't really want to look like you're that pregnant anymore. Your regular clothes don't fit and so this is something that like fits that not only just the in between phase like right after you have a child but also long term when you're continuing nursing. I am an extended breastfeeder. I have nursed all of my kids, my first half the year and the others over 2 years, and one of them over 3 years. So like I nursed for a long time. So like the question always is like, especially if we're going out somewhere, like, can I wear that I'm gonna like feel comfortable, look put together, but also be able to nurse my baby. So that's kind of my hope is that like all moms feel that confidence postpartum, that they realize that what they're doing is enough, right? Like being active postpartum doesn't mean that I'm like getting back to running half marathons necessarily, but I'm like getting back to being active around the house at first. I'm getting back to being active sort of in my own way on my own timeline. And there's no pressure to like do it in a certain amount.
I love that. And it like you said, the bouncing back, I really don't agree with that at all. And so to have
Yeah,
something like this that is more of just like, as you said, an in between, because you're right.
yeah,
When you think about it, you have like this is what I was before the baby was born, and then there was the
right.
person I was before I even conceived the baby. And so to have kind of like that, like it don't kind of fit in both categories, to have that in between, like a bridge almost, really is
Right.
important, because there aren't that many things actually out there advertised for women who have just had a baby to wear. Like that's not really a
Mm-hmm.
common thing that I've seen. So this is sounding like it's a really good idea. I really love the idea of
Thank
it.
you.
So I guess what advice would you give to other moms who have a dream or a business idea, but maybe they feel too overwhelmed to actually start?
Yeah, I mean that's a hard one. That's a really good question. I think you have to have some level of internal motivation, especially if you're going to start a business on your own. So you have to be able to like set your own goals. Um, but if you have, I've always felt this way that if there's something that you think about like on a daily basis that you want to be doing, whatever it is, um, for me in the past, it's been like, you know, I don't know, hiking adventures that, multi-day hiking adventures that I've been on. I did an Ironman, right? Like those are things that I mull over, but like there's something that I think about every single day. And same thing with like this whole adventure here where like I wanted to be home with my son. I wanted to stay home with my kids. I want to be, making money for my family. And it's something that I think about every day. So if you're in that same place where you're like, what can I do? I want to start my own business, just like go for it. Like, what do you, the question is like, what do you have to lose? Well, yeah, there's some degree of that of what you have to lose, but like, what if you don't ever try it and then you have the regret of never having tried it? You know. So I think that find some support. I've hired coaches in the past. I've hired business coaches. I've done paid coursework, right, to learn some of the skills that I have up until now because I'm a physical therapist, right? I'm like a science-based analytical person. I'm not, by nature, I am not like a marketing expert. I'm not like a, website professional, like designing websites. I've learned all those skills along the way. So, you can learn as you go. You don't have to have all the answers right when you start. It can be really overwhelming. So, my advice would be to find some guidance and just start. Take imperfect action, just and learn along the way.
I love that advice. And just to sum it up a little bit, just do it. You can do it. You've
Just
got
do it. Yeah, just do it. I mean, yeah, I mean, like I've been at it for a long time, and you can't expect it to be instantaneous. And for some people, it is, right? Some people they find that thing and they end up being like really good at it. They, start to finish launch in like 6 months or 8 months or whatever, and they're wildly successful. I hope that's my case that I become wildly successful. But I'm not there yet, and it's also like I said, it's taking me like a year and a half to get from like conception to now. So I would also say like patience then, like just as, in motherhood, it's just being patient with the process and giving yourself grace and being okay with making mistakes because Lord, I've made mistakes along the way. Um, so, all of those things.
I love that. That's awesome. And the patience is a little bit hard. I think
It
for
is
most
hard.
people.
That's the hardest part. That's
Yeah.
the hardest part of motherhood, and it's the hardest part of running a business, whatever you choose it, whatever it be. I agree with you. It's definitely the hardest part.
I work with preschoolers on the side of this, and sometimes the patience aspect of that, I'm like, oh, I just better walk in the hall myself and take a 5 second break. I'm losing it. I'm so losing it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you are really good with your active movement, and I guess I just was curious how you suggest to safely rebuild your strength and your confidence after you have children.
Yeah, good question. And this is kind of where I mentioned earlier is I created that program. Um, I named it Return to Run because that was kind of my focus. But it's really, for any mom who wants to get back to living life, right? Because even if you're not a quote unquote runner per se, what if your kid darts away from you in the parking lot, right? What if you're chasing after a ball in the backyard, right? You're going to be running at some point in your motherhood journey, right?
Yes.
So my advice and a lot of things that you see online is like, all right, do your Kegels postpartum, right? Like you go to you have your baby, you go to your like 6 week checkup or whatever, and well, the doctor says just do more Kegels or you're doing everything right, but like internally you're feeling like, well, things are not right. And that's kind of like my story where, at that 6 week mark and then 8 weeks and 12 weeks things are not feeling right. So yes, working on your pelvic floor is important. Core and pelvic floor is like I would say is the first place to start. And whether you're immediately postpartum, like you just had your baby, there's stuff that you can start right away. If you've neglected your core and your pelvic floor and it's been months or years since you've had your child, that's still where you need to start. So this is where my PT brain comes in. So like you need to start with the foundation, with the basics. So core and pelvic floor. I have a freebie available on my website for core and pelvic floor, like a 10-minute routine. It's a really good place to start. But really, what happens is a lot of moms stop there if they even get to that point, if they even do this part, right? And a lot of times they stop there, and then time passes, and then they're like, I'm going to get back to lifting weights, or I'm going to get back to, even power walking, right? Like that's even something that where I've worked with moms before, and they're like, I don't know what happened. I've been fine, and I started increasing my speed and doing hills, and now I'm weak, and I don't know what's going on. And it's been months and months, right? So core and pelvic floor, then you need to do a strength building phase, which is really important. That's the part that I feel like nobody really talks about is sort of that middle phase. Like, what do we do between like those early foundational exercises and rebuilding phase, and what do we do when we want to get back to certain activities? Is that middle, like that strength building phase. So making sure that you're doing gradual progressive exercises. And now whether that's working with, a PT, going in for, services as a patient, that's a great place to start. Unfortunately, a lot of insurances don't cover that. So find yourself a PT if you want or can go that route. Find yourself a postpartum exercise specialist, which is somebody who's certified in this realm, which is what I have. Um, so making sure that you're covering all those bases. And this is the program that I developed too is foundation, your strength training, and then do, specific exercises to kind of get you back to where you need to be. There's also like a checklist available to see where you're at. Like, can you, jump on one leg without leaking? Can you hold a plank for a certain amount of time without having any pain or pelvic floor symptoms? So there's also a checklist that you can either do on your own, which is good, or do under the guidance of a trainer or a professional so that they can really make sure that you're where you need to be or what areas you need to focus on for further rehab. But I think a lot of times, and I know I'm like rambling a little bit here, but this is kind of like it. I think a lot of times, moms just accept, like, well, I had a kid, and so now this is the way it's going to be. Like, I'm going to have, like I had symphysis pubis dysfunction or SPD, which is like really significant. For me, it was really significant, like pelvic pain. Um, and so mom's just like, well, that's the way it's going to be. And you go to your doctor and they're like, well, that's the way it's going to be. And I kind of shake my head because I wish doctors weren't giving that poor advice. And accepting also like, oh, well, when I sneeze, I leak, or when I jump on I can't jump on the trampoline anymore with my kids because I'm going to, pee my pants. And so that's kind of like the other thing too, is like, don't accept like that these things are normal, because before you had kids, they weren't normal. Like, if you hadn't had kids, would you go to the doctor for those things? 100%, right? But just because you had kids doesn't make those things normal. So don't accept it as normal, and make sure that you're getting the guidance and the help that you need in order to fix that and to rehab that, so that you can have, the quality of life and be the best mom that you can do and be comfortable in your skin.
Absolutely. And like just with the leaking that you were mentioning, I mean, I've been kind of obsessed with pregnancy and everything from it since I got my first period. And I used to watch like every pregnancy movie that you could find. And one of my favorites is actually called The Backup Plan. I don't know, have you seen it? It's got Jennifer Lopez in it. Oh, it's a good one. That's your homework after
I'm going to have to look it up and see if I've seen it.
Well, in this movie, there's this side character, like her best friend, and she constantly makes jokes about leaking, like constantly.
Yeah.
And when I first seen it, I like was really into reading all the pregnancy things, and it is always brought up as like, oh, it's a common thing. It happens after pregnancy, after you've had a baby. And I've always been like, that can't be just it. And so really when I got into my doula work and I got into seeing this kind of stuff, and like especially from your side of things too, like hearing, yeah, there's ways to like actually not have that happen. And so I wish more people would know that. So like when I see that movie, I'm kind of now like, oh, they're kind of just making a joke about it. And I'm kind of like, no.
Right. And that's the thing, is that moms do joke about it, right? We say it, we collectively as moms like talk about it as like a jokey thing, like welcome to motherhood, and everybody laughs about it. But really it's like a serious thing. Like we shouldn't accept that, as the norm. And a lot of times doctors will say something like, well, you'll have to wait until you're done having kids. And I don't believe in that either. I feel like you should take the steps to rehab yourself in between kids, because that sets you up for a better pregnancy later. Or even prolapse symptoms like can be helped with exercise. I've worked with a lot of moms with prolapse symptoms, and we've helped them with exercise. And the doctor just offers like, oh, well, we can do surgery for that, right? Yeah. And so moms think like their only answer is to do surgery. Well, newsflash, if you do the surgery without doing the rehab first, your symptoms are likely to come back. So bottom line, no matter where you're at, it's important to take those initial steps to get yourself, rehab.
So hopefully anyone listening, that's your sign. If you're leaking, go find someone to help you.
Yes, exactly.
Like, this is your sign, little sign. So you gave us some links that we get to put in the description, but where can people find you? How do people get to work with you? And where do they get to buy the BFF Activewear?
Oh, yeah, good question. Yeah, so I mostly hang out on Facebook. So you can find me on there. I'm at Rachel Pope 802 is the end of my link there, facebook.com 802. I also have a support group, postpartum support. postpartum support for active and breastfeeding moms. So I have that group going as well. So if you want to jump in there, I often offer a lot of my free resources, like that 10-minute core and pelvic floor routine in there. Yeah, you can buy. I'm also on Instagram too, but it's one of those like just cross post to
Yeah.
Instagram. So I'm not like as active on there. Like I'm not commenting as much on there. But yeah, it's still Rachel Pope 802. It's kind of the same across the span there. YouTube as well, Rachel Pope 802 if you want to find me on YouTube. But you can find the BFF Active tees on Amazon. So yeah, so they're on Amazon. If you want to search for that, because I am newly launching. If anybody's listening to this and they want to give a uh, solo mom company a little boost here, if you search nursing workout top, it will come up in the results, but that will also tell Amazon like, hey, people are looking for this, and so it will bring it up higher in the searches just so that more moms can find this product. Would be fantastic. Or you can just search BFF Active, and it will come up as the first result. But if you want to help a mom out, if you want to do that nursing workout top search, that would be fantastic. But yeah, it's available on Amazon, so you can have it to your house in 2 days if you decide to order it.
I love that. Yay. I hope many people get on this because this sounds pretty awesome. I love it. So I have a last question that I don't really give ahead. This is like a on the spot, so you might be
Sure.
mad at me after the show.
No, no, no.
My question that I've been asking this season is, what does it mean to be a woman to you?
What does it mean to be a woman? I think it means to just to tap into everything that's woman and feminine, right? Like I think like our culture has we've swung a long way where women felt like they had to do like strong and masculine things, and I would say I also went through that phase where I had to be like strong and independent for my oldest going through grad school, and then I went through a phase of like doing these, like I mentioned, like crazy like athletic feats of like taking for 3 weeks in the woods by myself and doing an Ironman and riding my bike 100 miles and those kinds of things. And I feel like I've kind of come back around to like being softer and being more in that feminine phase, feminine state, and mothering. Like being a woman to me means being a mom. I mean, like what greater role in life to fill than to be a mom and to be a mother. So yeah, to me, that's what it means. It just means to be soft and to be nurturing and loving and not just to our children, but also like to our spouse and our family and and those kinds of things. So I think it's those qualities that you would associate with being a woman, being a mother.
Yay. I love that answer. That if you've seen a few of the episodes, they kind of like very different. Everybody's got a different take on that.
Yeah.
So I always just love adding like a final question that's kind of kind of collective kind of answer a little bit. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came to talk to me today and tell me like you schooled me. You gave me education too. So
Awesome.
thank you
Glad
so
to hear
much.
that. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And everyone listening, make sure you tune in next Monday for another episode.